Well, U.S. lawmakers continued their probe into Russian meddling into last year's presidential election with two hearings this week, one in the Senate and one in the House of Representatives. Lawmakers remain divided over the question of whether President Donald Trump took any steps or abused his authority to obstruct justice. Now, that's an issue that's quickly becoming the focus of a special counsel investigation by former FBI Director Robert Mueller. VOA National correspondent Jim Malone has our report.
One key issue that remains unresolved is whether President Trump himself is under investigation for possible obstruction of justice in connection with the Russia probe. A presidential tweet late last week seemed to confirm news reports that Trump is now a subject of the investigation, with the president adding that he's a victim of a witch hunt. One of the president's lawyers, Jay Sekulow, denied that and said the White House has not received any official confirmation that Trump is under investigation. Earlier this month, former FBI Director James Comey told the Senate Intelligence Committee that the president said, "I hope you can let this go," referring to the FBI's probe of Trump's fired former National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. Comey said it felt like a presidential directive.
And joining us now for the continuing drama on Capitol Hill, we're joined here in Washington by VOA National correspondent Jim Malone, who filed that report, and of course by VOA Congressional correspondent Kathryn Gypson. I welcome both of you. It's an important issue that's taking place in the White House there, so we need to get to the bottom of this. Jim Malone, so is the president under investigation or is he not?
Well, we don't know for sure. There's not going to be any confirmation of that from the special counsel, Robert Mueller, who's leading this investigation now. But there's been numerous reports in a number of reputable newspapers that the investigation has broadened to include these possible activities. And some of the things we hear from the president sounds like he believes it as well.
But his lawyers don't. But that may be a defensive position. Kathryn, I know you attended, you've been in congressional hearings pretty much the last few months, I should say.
Very true.
What came out of the meeting this week between Bob Mueller and congressional heads? Did anything come out of that?
Right. Well, the important thing for Mueller this week was to head up to Capitol Hill and meet with the Senate and House Intelligence Committees to make sure that their investigations don't conflict with what he has going on as he builds his team. And from everything we are hearing from those Intel Committee heads, those meetings went very well. They've deconflicted their investigations. They know that they're not stepping on each other's turf. So that was a very important step this week.
But we're not expecting to hear anything from Bob Mueller anytime soon.
He's still building his team. It's going to take some time.
He's still building his case. Now, Jim, the other bit of news that came out just Thursday was the president finally ended 41 days of speculation on whether or not he actually was recording conversations at the White House. Why wait so long? And what does he gain from this?
Yeah, good questions, and best directed to the president.
Yeah.
You know, I really don't know what was in his mind on that. You know, one of the effects of that, though, was it caused former Director Comey to, if there were tapes, make sure his memos were out in the public realm.
Sort of backfired.
He leaked that to a source. That
Right.
was, and he, with the idea that in his mind, this would lead to the appointment of a special counsel. Well, guess what? So if you really want to deconstruct this, what may have been an offhand comment or in the form of a tweet by the president maybe embroiled himself deeper in a problem. So, you know, people like to debate whether the tweets are helpful, hurtful. In this case, it's not looking good.
Because what I'm wondering is, if you wait 41 days and keep everybody in suspense, don't you squander a little bit of that credibility that you need?
Not if you've been host of The Apprentice on NBC. I mean, this is the mode the president worked in when he was not in politics. And you know what? This is an essential point. He went to Iowa this past week in a campaign-style rally. He's most comfortable as the continuing candidate, getting that embrace of his most loyal supporters, fighting the rhetorical fight, and not worried so much about policy details. It's the essential Donald Trump that we see there, but how much of a cloud over the administration, and how much is he responsible for that himself?
Kathryn, to Jim's point, I mean, does the president need an opposition, an enemy for him to thrive? It almost seems like he always wants to blame Democrats, blame Hillary Clinton for something that
Well, he certainly had an interesting tweet this week after the Democrats suffered some disappointing losses in special elections for House seats. You know, there was a lot of talk on Capitol Hill this week that maybe the leadership of House Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi might not be the right fit for Democrats. And Trump tweeted, he said he'd love to see Pelosi kept in that position because it's, quote, good for Republicans.
Maybe you can talk a little bit about, both of you can talk a little bit about this. Democrats are 0 for 4. I mean, they, on all the special elections, how have Democrats sort of miscalculated this scenario? Did they put too much importance, perhaps, on the Russia probe?
You know, I think you have to look at one of the key marquee races in those special elections, the Georgia 6. I went down there to report in April. That is a heavily Republican district. That's been a Republican district for 3 decades. I had the sense that that district was not going to flip and that this was something of a test case for Democrats. They poured all of their money into it, a lot of energy, a lot of grassroots efforts. But in the end, I don't think you could change the essential nature of that district. And that's what a lot of Democrats were saying the morning after that loss.
Jim, is the Russia probe a winning issue for Democrats? Or
well, look,
do people
I think
care?
They look, the Democrats are very excited about the 2018 congressional elections. They think they have a chance to take back the House, maybe the Senate. That might be a little tougher. Point is, they think, or they have thought, the silver bullet was the anti-Trump feeling in the country. It's energized Democrats, and they were expecting to see a wave, especially in that Georgia race, to carry their candidate to victory. Didn't happen. They're going to do some soul searching now. And so the Democratic Party has to kind of reevaluate its own national brand. And the question will be boiled down to, in some cases, is just opposing Donald Trump enough to retake the national agenda? And that's an open question.
Do they need a message, Kathryn?
Oh, absolutely. The morning after that Georgia 6 loss, a lot of the younger Democrats I spoke to on Capitol Hill were saying that if you walk down the street and ask 10 people, what does the Democratic Party stand for, you would get 10 different answers. And that's a problem. You can't just be the party that's opposing Trump. You can't just run on anger against Trump. You have to figure out what your message is and get that message out there for 2018.
So Jim, if you could give the president some advice on how to move forward, what would it be? Just stop the tweeting? What would you tell him?
Well, I don't need to give him any advice. I mean, there's plenty of Republicans who would like to give him that advice. It's a constant theme. Even some of his core supporters would like him to dispense with some of that. At the same time, this is how the essential Donald Trump always comes through to his supporters. He's not going to abandon that. Whatever tools he thought got him to win this upsetting victory, upsetting in the terms of no one predicted it, in terms of the presidency, he's going to keep doing it. That's the nature of the man that we've been watching.
So, Kathryn, sort of the same question, but with such low approval ratings, 36 or 38%, something in that neighborhood, is that all the president needs to do? Is just satisfy his base and never mind the rest of this 62%?
Well, it depends on how long Capitol Hill Republicans stick with him. And so far, when I've been speaking to them about each of these latest revelations in the Russia probe, they say, you know, this is how the president speaks. When he's speaking to Director Comey in the Oval Office, that's just who he is. He's not a politician. He doesn't speak the way politicians speak. And as long as they stick with him on that issue, he has the support he needs.
And I'm afraid the American public are probably getting used to this tactic and sort of giving it free rein, just that the president can do whatever he wants to do. So I appreciate both of you actually covering this issue so closely for both of us. Thank you, Jim Malone, and thank you, Kathryn. We're going to take another break right now, but when we come back, the UN says the situation in South Sudan remains critical as hunger and famine threatens millions of people. But first, a reminder, we want to hear from you. Share your thoughts, questions, and comments on our Facebook page. The address is VOA The Correspondents. We'll be right back.